Hey guys, DM here, and today we are talking about rental arbitrage versus owning your own house when you're getting ready to set up a furnished rental. Now, whether you use it for short-term rentals by the night or mid-term rentals 30 nights or more at a time, there are some benefits to both options. So today I'm going to go over 5 benefits of the arbitrage method and 5 benefits of the ownership method. So let's go. Okay, so number 1, with the arbitrage method, it's going to be a very low barrier to entry. You're essentially finding landlords that you can rent a unit from, and then instead of moving in it yourself, you're going to re-rent it back out on the market as a furnished rental. So usually that's going to be a deposit and then your regular monthly rent payments. For me, I've actually done arbitrage before, and it's really important to me ethically that if I'm going to arbitrage a place, I inform the landlord and get their consent to rent it again back on the market as a furnished unit. So I am going to also make them feel safe and secure by letting them know that I will take care of all minor repairs. But that actually leads me to benefit number 2, which is that being a renter yourself, you don't have to be responsible of any major repairs. So if an big appliance goes out, if there's a leak in the roof, those things are going to be handled by the owner themselves. The third reason why arbitrage is a good idea is that you can scale a lot faster. Since it is a lower cash barrier to entry, you can use your existing cash to scale quickly, or once you build up cash flow, you're able to then scale up quickly using that money. Whereas a home, well, with a big down payment, it's going to be very hard for you to scale as fast as rental arbitrage. Number 4, rental arbitrage is also very good because it's a low risk, right? So when you go into rent a space, if for some reason it doesn't work out at the end of the lease term, you can eliminate the lease and move on. For me, when I negotiated my lease term to ensure that they're also happy, I offered them a month-to-month option. As long as they give me a 30-day notice, then I would be able to vacate the property. You could also negotiate that for a longer term, like 3 months at a time, 6 months at a time, or if you're comfortable, you can do a year or more. But for me, since the landlord that I was working with felt uncomfortable, I just kept my booking window out 30 days or however long we agreed that he would need to give me notice. I actually think maybe we agreed on 60 days, but that's how long I would keep my booking window available so that I never have guests who are booked beyond that, just in case either one of us changes our mind. And number 5, the last reason why I think arbitrage is a good idea is because the return on investment is very high. When you think about a low barrier to entry, that means that any income that you're getting, any cash flow divided by the investment to begin with, that's going to be actually a very good ROI, often compared to that of investing in a home where you have to put a lot of cash down to purchase the property. All right, guys, before we move into the 5 reasons why I think ownership is good and better than arbitrage, would you consider hitting the subscribe button if you find any value? It really helps the channel, and I'm trying to grow so I can spread the message to more people and help more people retire early through real estate investing. All right, guys, so we're now moving on to property ownership and why that is a good idea. I have 5 reasons, but some of them are pretty lengthy, and as you will find, I actually prefer ownership. As I mentioned, I've done both, and there are infinite reasons, but we're only going to talk about 5, why it's so much better than arbitrage. So let's go into number 1. The first benefit is building equity. So as you purchase a home, instead of paying rent every month, you're going to pay down your mortgage. But if you have renters, well, who's actually paying down your mortgage? It's not you. So instead of paying rent that will never come back to you, you're going to be paying down a mortgage that will be paying down the debt or the principal on the home. And so over time, you're going to build equity that way. And what's awesome is that that is being paid for by your guests and your renters, not even you. Another form of building equity, this is number 2, is appreciation. So over time, well, there's 2 ways of appreciation. So over time, as you own the property, naturally, the value of real estate goes up. right? So you've got appreciation over time. But as you purchase the property, there are things that you can actively do to increase the value of your home. You can do remodels, you can add square footage, you could add an ADU or a JADU. Or you can even add bedrooms, like maybe there's square footage that you can add a door and convert into a bedroom, or you can turn a half bathroom into a full bathroom. There are so many different ways that you can add value to your property. And when you do that in renting, well, first of all, you can't even do those big construction things because it's not your home. But if the value was to increase, you're not going to benefit from that because you don't even own the home itself, right? Number 3. The last point brings me to this point, because if you can increase the value, then you can consider doing what's called a cash out refinance. This is not an option if you are going to arbitrage. Cash out refinance means that you are going to refinance the home, and based on the new terms, if you have any extra equity than the minimum amount required to be kept in the loan, then you're able to cash that out. The bank will literally give you a check to take, and now you can do whatever you want with that. And because it's a cash out equity, you don't have to pay taxes on that amount, because technically it's still inside of the loan. They're just giving you a check and you can now use that, but that amount actually sits inside of the loan that you're making payments on. So a lot of people actually use this strategy. They'll buy a home and they will then, at a low value, and then they will renovate it. They will fix it up, they will get renters in there, and now that the value is increased, they will refinance it, they will keep the minimum amount that's required to stay inside the loan, and then get a check for the remaining amount to cash out and reuse to invest in something else. And that's a strategy that you cannot do with arbitrage. Number 4, and this is a big one. Tax benefits. This is huge. So when you are renting a place and you are arbitraging it, you actually can write off the rents for that place. Just like if you are another business and you had an office and you were renting an office, your office expense is a write-off. So you can do the same thing with the rents that you have to pay for an arbitraged unit. However, there are a bunch of things that you can do in real estate ownership that you cannot do in arbitrage. The first thing is standard depreciation. So for a investment property, you can take the value of the home minus the value of the land, and that gives you the home value. The home value at a standard rate of 27.5 years will depreciate. So you take the home value, you divide it by 27.5 years, and that is the amount that you get to use as a depreciation or deduction in your taxes when you're calculating your taxes at the end of the year. So that's a huge benefit that you wouldn't be able to have as a arbitrage. The next point about tax benefits is another big hitter, and that is what I call a real estate professional tax status. If you qualify as a real estate professional in terms of tax status, that allows you to take any rental losses from a property or your collection of properties and offset that with any taxable income. Normally, investment properties and you get passive income like rentals, if you have a loss there, you're not able to offset it with your other taxable income. But if you qualify for real estate professional status, you are able to do that. And that leads me to my next point of depreciation. We talked about how you could do a standard depreciation over the course of 27.5 years. Well, there's also another strategy that you could speed up that depreciation, which means that in speeding it up, the amount you can depreciate increases for the first few years. So here's an example. You can do a cost segregation on a property, which essentially is a report done by either an online service provider or someone who comes out and does a cost segregation report for you. And what that does is it splits up the value of the home itself versus the contents of the home, maybe like window treatments, windows, cabinetry, flooring, etc. And so by splitting out those assets or parts of the property, you're able to depreciate those elements faster than the 27.5 years. And so when you combine cost segregation and depreciation with the ability to be a real estate professional, you're really able to take sometimes major losses in your rents. And these are losses on paper, right? Because you're actually still getting positive cash flow. Well, these paper losses then can offset your taxable income. So if you have W-2 income or any other income, please do check with your accountant to confirm. You're able to offset those to then decrease your tax bracket and essentially either minimize or many times completely eliminate your tax responsibilities. It's pretty amazing. And the last pointer I have about taxes is the ability to do a 1031 exchange. So what's a 1031 exchange? Well, if you own a piece of real estate that is an investment property and you go to sell that property and you have gains, you bought it at a lower price, you sold it at a higher price, those gains can be allocated towards a new investment property tax-free. Normally, when you go to sell an asset, right, if you have gains, you would pay capital gains tax. Especially if you sell it within less than 1 year, you have a higher capital gains tax to pay. But in the situation of a 1031 exchange, if you use those gains to purchase another investment property through the 1031 process, you can't just willy-nilly go out and do it on your own. You have to formally do it through a 1031 exchange process. Those gains are not taxed. That gets deferred and again if you continue to do a 1031 exchange rollover. That's definitely not a benefit that you can have doing arbitrage. And sometimes you're saving tens, thousands of dollars. When you move into apartment complex, you can be talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. These are big ticket numbers. All right, are we done talking about taxes? I know it's a lot of information and it can be taxing, but we are gonna move on to the fifth reason why ownership is really good and, in my opinion, so much better than arbitrage. The fifth reason is you have so much more freedom as a home owner. You can decide if you want to allow for pets or not to have pets in your policies for renters. You can decide if you want to do some construction or change something, break down a wall, merge units, merge rooms, all sorts of creative ways that you can improve the listing ability and desirability of your unit. That choice is yours. When you are renting and arbitraging, typically landlords are not going to want you to do any of that stuff. Also, if you want to put up security cameras, they're not going to probably want you to do that on their property. And I love the ability to have freedom of choice. I mean, that's also why I'm self-employed. That's also why I started my own companies over time. I just feel like there's so much empowerment and strength in the ability to make your own decisions, those that benefit you the most. All right, guys, just a few words of wisdom as we wrap up the 10 benefits, 5 for arbitrage and 5 for ownership. You guys can tell which one I vouch for the most. But as you are looking into rental properties, I want to remind you that yes, definitely furnished units are going to get you a lot better rents and cash flow than long-term tenants, but there's a couple drawbacks with that. With furnished units, vacancy in between is a little bit more unpredictable, whether it's because of market trends or seasonality in that area, or because let's say you do a midterm rental, the 30 days or more, well, it's gonna be hard to find another person who wants to move in the exact same day as the person moving out. So certainly long-term rental has more stability, and also you are contributing to the community in terms of offering houses if you are located in an area that has a housing shortage. I also rent to long-term renters who are in low income or Section 8. I want to break the stigma that that is a bad idea. You just screen your tenants just like you would screen employees or anyone else in terms of reference checks, meeting them in person, really getting a clear vibe, asking the right questions when you do the reference checks. But again, a great contribution to the community. Now, if you choose to do furnished rentals and you go with short-term rental, because that's probably going to be the highest bang for your buck, you might be facing some regulation issues. A lot of cities around the United States are changing their terms. They are making it very difficult to do short-term rentals, if not eliminating them completely. So I don't want you to count out the idea that you can convert that into a midterm rental. Midterm rentals, as I said before, are 30 nights or more. You're thinking, who's gonna rent that? Who goes on vacation and wants to stay that long? Actually, it could be like executive rentals or traveling nurse rentals, right? A lot of people travel for work months at a time. They want a place to call home that feels very homey, and a good experience for them. So using furnished rentals as a midterm rental is a great way to make more than long-term rentals and do less work than short-term rentals. And if you are living in an area that allows for both midterm and short-term rentals, then a combination of both is going to maximize the occupancy rate on your rental calendar. A few resources for you. So I list my midterm rentals on Airbnb. I just set the setting for 30 nights or more. I also listed on Furnished Finders and VRBO, listing it with a minimum of 30 nights or more. My short-term rentals I tend to list on Airbnb and VRBO, and I'm gonna also list a couple other resources for you in the link below. If you're unfamiliar with midterm rentals, stick around. I'm gonna leave the links for the 2 videos at the end as well that I think would help you a lot. So if you got any value, hit the like, hit the subscribe, and I'll see you next week. Bye guys.